I speak a lot about the story that we live in, the story of separation, the discrete and separate self in a universe of other. And that story actually was a driver of what I call the ascent of humanity, the unfolding of complex societies, division of labor, specialization, technology, all the things that we associate good and bad with civilization were in some sense driven by or co-evolved with the idea of separation and with the identity of separation. So that served the unfolding of life for a while, but today it does not. Today that story serves death on this planet, the reduction of complexity, the killing of ecosystems, the conversion of forests into tree plantations, the fishing out of the oceans. That story is no longer in service to the unfolding of life. And so when our life energy, and this kind of goes to it helps me at least understand my resistance, my lifelong resistance to full participation in the program that I was offered, my deep innate impulse and intuition about here's what I'm here for and here's what I'm not, and this doesn't feel right. It comes down to what I've been offered not really being in service to life. So this might be a practical, it might be even an orienting question that you could use in informing your choices. Is this in service to life? And if something is repellent to you, is that because it's not serving life?
You could say that the intelligence that is guiding our development itself goes through evolution, and that it's in a process of change right now. And to access it, we have to unlearn a lot of what we thought we knew, because pretty much everything that we think we know about who we are and how the world works is wrong, like down to the most basic level.
Where you are nothing but a biochemical accident, a fuzz of biochemistry whirling along and living out your life until you're snuffed out at the end, and that's it. The alienated self in a universe of atoms and void that grinds along mechanically toward heat death. That is a myth. It's a story. It is one way of looking at things. And that way of looking at things corresponds to a state of being. That is an evolutionary stage in human development. It is an expression of the course of separation, as I call it. So separate we are that we deny the livingness of the universe itself and our part in it. And I think that in order to move past this particular level of development, it needs to be inhabited in all of its fullness, this metaphysical teaching, this which goes along with a state of being. And there really is no disproof possible, because no matter what evidence you're offered, even if you've had experiences that just do not fit into that worldview, you can still dismiss them. They don't meet that state of being on its own terms. What meets it on its own terms are experiences like, having a near-death experience, maybe, or a religious, spiritual, mystical experience, or a psychedelic experience.
Maybe some of you have had experiences that demonstrate that. Experiences that you just don't know what to do with this incredible synchronicity, or this encounter with forgiveness or generosity, or this miracle of healing that just doesn't fit into the reality picture that you were given. Like, what do you do with that? Because to take that in, or it could be a political data point, something that happened in the world that's like, whoa, hold on. This doesn't fit into the story of the world that I've been operating under.
Like anomalous healing, energy healing, psi phenomena, like precognitive dreams, near-death experiences, psychedelic plant medicines, like this entire universe that has the potential to expand our understanding of what is possible, and in which our despair over the fate of the planet has no place.
So what do we do with these data points? There's two choices. One is we could just kind of ignore it, explain it away. That was just coincidence, or whatever. I'm not going to think about that. The other thing is to take that in and reconfigure your entire story of what's real and who you are. Because that one data point, if it doesn't fit, then to make it fit, you have to build an entirely different structure. To do that, you have to let go of the existing structure and all of the attachment to it. It's not just, that's why it's so hard for people to change their beliefs.
Yeah.
You cannot just will a change in belief, because our beliefs are just one layer of a whole state of being that is wrapped up with our identity. So to unlearn requires to undo some of our self-construct. It's a profound letting go. But that's what's necessary in order to access higher levels of intelligence that are becoming available to us right now, that maybe were not available, but they are becoming available.
So we're entering now this time of I call it the space between stories. Like, we don't know anymore what the answer is. We don't know who we are. We don't even know what's real. Because on every level, the story that answered those questions is breaking down. Politically, economically, and especially technologically and in our relationship to nature. So that leaves us not knowing. And it leaves us open to another story, which is the new and ancient story of, I use the word interbeing, which I'm told was coined by Thich Nhat Hanh. Interbeing is a very natural term. It means more than interconnection or interdependency, which kind of suggests separate selves having relationships. Interbeing is more of an understanding that we are relationship, that my very existence depends or draws from or includes your existence. So my well-being is intimately connected to your well-being or to the well-being of the river, the ocean, the forest, people across the world, and so forth, because I'm not really separate from you. And that means that in the story of interbeing, I know that whatever I do to the world will come back to me somehow. I am a holographic map of everything in the universe or everything on this planet. And that what I do to the world somehow comes back to me in some way, in some form, not necessarily as a direct consequence, but anything I put out there, any violence I cause, maybe it doesn't mean that someone's going to be violent to me, but maybe any violence I do externally corresponds to an inner violence that shuts down, kills some part of myself, and my experience of life becomes that much less alive. Like that kind of logic. What happens if I really accept that and have the faith and trust in that? Who do I become then?
The way I conceive it is that intelligence is not limited to human beings, and that it is present in all things and in the world, and that there is an inconceivable mystery going on here. I don't know if you want to call that God, an intelligence that pervades all things, that pervades the events of our lives. And we look back and we realize that everything is perfect. That maybe you could call it God.
The story of separation says that beingness is only in human beings, and the world outside of outside of ourselves is just a bunch of stuff. So the story of interbeing animates pretty much everything on a social level, things like restorative justice or alternative gift-based ways of meeting human needs, time banking, for example, to on the agricultural level or the ecological level, anything that says that the way that we treat the soil, the way that we treat nature, the way that we treat the rivers, the way that we treat other people, that is going to benefit ourselves as well. And it's not out of this calculating utilitarian mindset of the world is here for our benefit. It's more like the relationship between a parent and a child. The self of the parent expands to include the son. That's called love. Love is the expansion of self to include another. So His happiness is my happiness. I have 4 sons. His suffering is my suffering. It's the truth. The future of humanity is to return to that relationship to nature and to all beings and to all human beings too, to fall in love with the world. Its well-being is my well-being. It's also true on a practical level. Practically speaking, and this is being discovered by regenerative agriculture, practically speaking, when you do respect and honor and serve the soil, then you get higher crop yields. So it's not just like some spiritual principle, but it pervades every level of interaction. But the basis of it ultimately has to be love. Love for the soil, love for the other people. I think that anything calling on our love, anything that enlivens us because it serves the well-being of those we love and expands our own circle of love, anything like that is going to be drawing from the story of interbeing, because that story really is a story of love. It's an expansion of the self to include the other. That's what love is. So anything that awakens that and confirms that and strengthens that in ourselves, that is a guide or a pointer or a technology of reunion with those cast off, othered parts of ourselves.
If you're feeling hopeless about the planet ever healing, does your hopelessness take into account the most miraculous synchronicity that you ever experienced that shows you that there is some other intelligence threaded through this world? Does it take that into account? So if we want to be realistic, if we want to live in reality and not a delusion, we have to accept all of these data points, from the most horrific information all the way to the healing of stage 4 cancer and the feats of Qigong masters and the synchronicities that I talked about. Like, all of that has to be within our data set for us to be realistic.
You've probably had those moments of despair where you think it's just hopeless and the world is always going to be this way and anything we do is not enough. But there's also, and I would say that this is maybe more of a heart knowing, that understands that a more beautiful world is possible. We get glimpses of it sometimes in moments of deep intimacy with a person or with nature, moments of cooperation, that effortless flow. Maybe you've had a time where everyone just came together with their gifts and was completely selfless, and the right person came at just the right time and did just the right thing. And you had this feeling like the world could be built on this. Or maybe you've experienced a miraculous healing or a miraculous synchronicity or something like that, an experience that you could not explain, but that was really beautiful to you. And that gave you a hint of a reality and a realm of possibility that was much bigger than what we grew up being told was real and possible. Even if your rational mind says, well, how could that possibly ever happen on a large scale on Earth? Could we really build a world on that? The rational mind cannot see a path from A to B, but it feels real to you, and therefore you can bow into its service.
The rational mind, the mind of separation, says, well, okay, that's not a valid expression of my desire to serve. I need to do something public. But when we embrace a different theory of change, like the theory of morphic resonance, morphogenetic fields, then we understand, oh, actually, because we're not separate from the world, anything we do has cosmic significance. Every choice that we make generates a field. Any act of love, any act of kindness, any act of forgiveness or generosity creates a field of love, kindness, forgiveness, and generosity, and that affects the whole world. And maybe someone across the world is now in that field, and they become more forgiving. They become more generous too. And it's not dependent on they found out about your act of generosity because someone put it on YouTube and it went viral and they found out and got inspired. It can happen that way, but we don't have to make it happen that way. We can be confident that the world does not work as we have been told.
It seems what you're doing is, in a way, bringing science back around toward its, let's just say, true purpose, which is to increase our apprehension of the awe and mystery of this universe, like to put us face to face with the miracle, and just how endlessly complex and perfect it is. Like, it's a miracle. How can this possibly happen? You know? When you ask, why am I here? And the answer of participating in the ascent of humanity no longer satisfies, a new answer is arising, which is, I am here to participate in the healing of this planet. I am here to participate in the coming alive of the world, the coming more alive. So far, humans have been parties to the dying of the world. The planet is less alive than it was 1,000 years ago by any measure. If you look at biodiversity, there's been a lot of extinction, a lot of ecocide. But like all species, we were born here to make the world more alive. In an ecosystem, each species is necessary for the thriving of the whole. Each contributes to the aliveness of all. We're meant to do the same thing. So here I am articulating a new myth, that we were born onto this earth in order to make Earth come more alive. We have unique gifts that can accomplish this, that are meant to be used to serve the maintenance and the evolution of life, and ultimately to serve the coming alive of the cosmos. So
yes,
that gives life meaning beyond success, beyond anything that can accrue to the separate individual. And that's one of maybe many threads of a new narrative that we are weaving today, or that is weaving us.
Kind of what I'm pointing to is the possibility that a more beautiful world is actually so available to us. It's not something that we have to work hard to achieve. We don't have to invent new inventions to finally graduate to wealth and health.
To serve life is to align with the principle of the gift, to understand that I am here to serve life, to serve this unfolding intelligence in the universe, on this planet. To stand in that is a departure from what we've been programmed to be. Leave off for now with simply affirming that is inside of you, that it is an unquenchable spark, that you are here. Every single person is born with a desire to be in service to the aliveness of the world.